Hello, this is Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and a few weeks ago I put up this video, and when I put the telemetry on it, it was really weird. So let's jump to the end. Now, what I did was I just flew around the backyard. I didn't get very high, so that could have been the problem, but let's go ahead and jump clear to the end down here. And you can see, well, let's see, we'll go here. Here I am. Well, let's go closer to the end. All right, now I'm coming in. We'll get ready to pause this. And when I get down here to the chairs and get ready to land right there, let's pause it. Notice over here on the right, it says I'm 8.5 feet above the ground. And that is not an accurate measurement. I was not 8.5 feet above the ground. And so that got me to wondering what's going on here. How come I'm not getting very good altimeter measurements? So let's close this and we'll go to, let's see, we want to go to, I think we want to go to this one here. Yeah. That made me put together this video. We'll get it up here in a minute. Okay, why the difference? If you watch that video, the upper reading is, I flew two flights. The upper reading is FPV, and I've come in for a landing in front of my house, and it says I'm 2.5 feet above the starting point, whereas when I used a flight plan, it was accurate. It came in and said I was at 0 feet from where I started. So that got me thinking, well, what's different about a flight plan? Because I noticed before that flight plans had a more accurate reading. And I thought, what's the difference between a flight plan and just taking off and flying normally? And so I got to it was really concerning me. And so the next thing I did was I started taking a look at, let's see, we'll minimize these guys. I started looking at the flight data manager. This is the flight data of the day that I did the FPV. Okay, I'm doing what's the difference. And so let's go ahead and get rid of speed and get rid of battery. And we don't need distance or distance flown, but we do want the altitude, and we also want the altitude relative to the terrain. So we'll click that one, okay? So the altitude here, I was flying around doing everything, and then I came down, and in this section over here, I was trying to turn on the flight plan, and the Free Flight Pro app would not go over to flight plan, and I have a feeling it was because I had all this data already set up, and so it was unwilling to go to a flight plan. If I would have just started out with the flight plan, it probably well, as I did, I started out with a flight plan to compare these two, and it worked just fine. So this blue line here is what was measured by the sonar sensor on the bottom of the drone. That's the altitude relative to the terrain. And so as you fly around and you fly over things that are lower than where you took off, then this is going to indicate a little higher, and so that's the altitude you are above the ground. And then as you get down, like coming down here and over here, while I was sitting there waiting, trying to get the flight plan to work, they were both about the same. So let's take a look. This is that day. Let's take a look at this other one here, okay? Let's take a look at this one here. You'll notice this is the day that I realized I had a problem, because when I landed over here, take a look, I was 8 feet above the ground according to the Bebop. So let's go ahead and get rid of some of these things here and take a close look at what we have to work with here. Okay, so there's our altitude. Now I want to show you something, because as I took off that day, for some reason or another, the sonar sensor wasn't working properly. So we'll turn on the altitude above ground, and when it took off, the altitude above ground was already it was already about half a meter above the ground. So and you'll notice it's reading on this, if you look close here, it's reading 0 feet above the ground, and it's already above the, up off of the ground. Well, actually, it's not. It hasn't. Well, actually, I don't know whether it was or not. But the thing is this should be down at the bottom. But the red line, being the actual altitude reported, is based upon the sensor, the sonar sensor. So when we take out the sonar sensor, it's starting like it's on ground level. But when you turn that on, it didn't start at ground level; it started higher. And all the way through here, here's an interesting place where the distance the distance above ground was lower than the altitude measured by any other device, GPS or the altimeter. So I believe the reason I had such strange readings is because the altitude relative to terrain, or the sonar sensor, was faulty. Because if I take that out of the picture, then we come back, but the altitude's already messed up, because it was listening to the sensor. So excuse me. So we have that issue to look into. So what I said earlier is I looked into the difference between taking off FPV and allowing the sonar sensor to establish the altitude, and of course we don't get good readings there. Whereas when we use a flight plan, I usually bring it up about 10 meters and then switch on flight plan, and apparently when I switch on flight plan, something takes place that makes it accurate after that. So I got to thinking, well, what is it about a flight plan that makes it do that? And so I thought, okay, as soon as you start the flight plan, it's looking at altitude using the altimeter rather than using the sonar sensor. So the sonar sensor is left out of the picture as soon as you start the flight plan. Whatever altitude the altimeter is reading, that's what establishes the distance above ground, and it's not relying upon the sonar sensor. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So the next thing I decided to do was to go to the park, because I had never used hand launch before. So I decided I would go to the park and use hand launch. I'm getting all kinds of comments here, nice comments. So let's see, we'll go here, I'll have to go up here, and I'll have to go here. I tested hand launch at the park. Okay, so here I am at the park, and I'm testing hand launch, and I just threw it up, and so it's reading 6.4 feet, and the altitude is staying the same above ground. Now let's go over to the end of the video. This was hand launch, and I'm bringing it in and saying it's 4 feet. That is pretty accurate, because when it's down to that level along my legs, that's about 2 feet off the ground. And I did this twice at the park just to make sure, and sure enough, it's reading much more accurately than when I use FPV. So we'll go ahead and close that. So that takes me to the opinion that hand launch should be the way to go if you want accurate readings. And so the following video points that out, and I've already posted that video, but we'll take a look at it. Okay, it's called the Trashy Hand Launch Video, and if you go and take a look at it, it will explain the difference between the altitude over ground, which is measured with the sonar, and the altitude from the point of takeoff. That's those two gauges on the right-hand side. So we won't watch the rest of this, and you can go take a look at this video. It's already uploaded online, and I want to thank you for watching, and God bless.